me in order to join me in the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Any claims this time?
I wasn't here, so.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the claim.
Yeah, it's a kind of
Yeah.
unemployment. It always comes after our last meeting or our first meeting, and
Thank
it
you.
needs to be paid before the next one.
Have a motion? A second motion? Second.
It's getting smaller.
John, we'll start off with you.
Okay, I've got three things real quick. Number one, I'm still working on the handbook, trying to make all the suggested revisions, or at least the topics to talk about in a future work session. Number two, the state of Indiana has sent us the deed for the property up at Shelburne for the old highway department up there. So I'll get the deed recorded and disclosure statement and all that. But we've got to sign an affidavit, a hold harmless affidavit to the state for this. And Ray, what I'd like for you to do is just sign it there, and then I'll fill the rest of it in, and when I do, I'll put on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. So if you'll sign right there where it says appliance signature, I'll get the rest of that done and send it.
I'll entertain a motion on this.
Motion to accept it.
I make a motion, we accept the one. I'll second that.
Can we take possession now?
Yep.
Did you have keys left yet?
They were supposed to be sending us keys down to the Linton sub-district, but they don't pick them up, I guess. They said they had them over there, but they didn't know where they were.
I hadn't used them forever.
Okay, thank you, Rick. And the third and final thing that I have for you tonight is when you meet again on Monday, June 3rd, I will be gone that night. I won't be here. I've just got to go on a fishing trip. I don't know whether I'll bring any fish back to you guys, but I'll bring a couple of stories anyway.
Well, we'll try to take care of everything we had before then. That's all you have?
Yes.
Andy?
After a lot of discussion and meetings with Tom and Marvin and the foreman, we've decided that we should accept the bid from the Terre Haute Truck Center.
Do they have two options?
Kenworth Trucks, yes. Also, they were the lowest bid, and Tom, well, we met with the representative from Terre Haute Truck Center, and Tom really asked a lot of questions and really did his due diligence and made sure it was what we wanted. So in those discussions, he decided to upgrade one size of the engine up to, I think it was 370 horsepower, which cost an extra $3,240, but it was still cheaper than the next lowest bid. So, and there's a lease purchase option of 4 years for $30,282.01, which I think that's the way we need to go.
I move we accept Benji's recommendation.
I second that. And do we need to forward this on to the council, or are they good with?
I don't think we really have to, but I will make sure they know what we're doing.
Well, if we're leasing, then we do have to have their approval, but then they've already gave their blessing. It's just
Right.
they didn't know what to sign on.
I'll make sure they know what we're doing.
Okay, we have a motion second, all in favor?
Would you talk about this a little bit, Benji?
Yeah,
I asked Benji to do this.
Ken, we got a estimate on the section of concrete pavement out to the fairgrounds. It runs out to the highway department between, I believe that's the corner of Foley Street. The estimate I got was for the first 250 feet, which is pretty bad pavement right there right now. I got two estimates, one for 8-inch thickness and one for 12-inch thickness. The one for 8 inches, which is what's there now, is $52,825. For a 12-inch pavement, $65,650. The bid is for Class A concrete, which is an NDOT pavement mix, so I feel like it would be a good pavement, and I really think 8 inches would be plenty thick. That road's been there that road's 8 inches now, and it's been there for 70 years or more.
Is that the worst section?
That's the worst. It's not necessarily the only bad section, but it's the worst section there now. And I would say if you wanted to do a different section too, they would be adverse to that, or in two different sections.
Well, what I'm wanting to do, I don't know, I haven't really talked to you guys about it, but I'm wanting to do it over the next couple of years. Just want to get as far as my money will take me with it. Maybe do another short section next year. Have the money available.
You know, it's concrete pavement, it's been there a long time, and it's probably the way to go to replace it.
Benji, how much, Jane, how much have we got that we haven't committed to
You
asphalt?
haven't spent any of your CEDA money.
But I mean, with what we had from the coal mine money.
Well, you had
We spent it.
842,000.
Yes.
You've got 622 under contract.
But we had 150 slated for 800 east.
You got
And
eight.
we had how much left?
About another 100. It may be a little less than that, Ray. I'd have to go back and look, but there's a little bit left of that.
Are we anticipating about the same amount of money next year, or do you know?
Supposedly, we're going to get more.
Don't know that for sure.
That's just,
don't
you
get
know,
real
what you read in the
excited,
papers.
But I'm hearing it's done deal, so.
Well, I was thinking,
There's more
before
money
we got
coming.
this bid, I was thinking about maybe spending $25,000 over the next, $25,000 this year, maybe $25,000 next year. If we could, out of my,
To give you some kind of perspective, 250 feet is roughly 1/10 of that stretch of road. About 10% of that road. So if you did that 250 feet, it would take you 10 years.
that's gonna last a long time. I'd like to, guys think on it.
Has anybody talked to the neighbors along there for drainage? I mean, that's part of the problem right there.
Yeah, it needs
The
to
water
be.
can't go anywhere.
We would have to probably do
Get-
something.
Take all that off.
Shoulders, maybe even some under drains in select places.
Right.
But that's no big deal, that's
There's
not hard
about
to
two
do.
places there that it,
Especially when you're already taken out for pavement.
Is the pavement removal separate there?
I told them we would truck it. Remove, yeah.
Is it priced separately or is it just in there?
No, it's included. It's included. I did tell them we would help the truck. That's a lot committed to it. And not with new trucks.
I guess it's how much money you want to spend on it.
I'd like to do it, but is there any way I can get $27,825 from the Common Place? That'd be me paying for 25,000 even this year.
Well,
Are you I know what you're thinking. Emma?
I don't know. Never guess that, but go ahead.
You had committed the rest of that money to put in oil on your roads that you were gonna grind up. But you've kind of changed your mind on that, correct?
No, not completely.
No? Okay. Then I'm not thinking what you're thinking. I was thinking maybe you could throw some of that at that.
I can pay for it. If we have to skimp to do it, I'll skimp to do it, but I think it's commonly, I think the whole county uses that road at different points.
It's all turned down.
We just should have done this before we committed all of our money somewhere else. That's because the money came from my district, so I'm a little leery to keep kicking, you know.
I know.
I know, I'm just. We all go to the county garage, we all go to the fairgrounds.
let's look and see where we might come up with some money, okay? Run everything again and,
My fear is though, if we put it off too much longer, we're gonna be getting into the fair time.
And I think they can get on it.
Right.
I think they can do it right away,
could we wait until the next meeting to decide?
I would think.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, and we could run
I would think.
the books again and see where we might have some extra money. Where Marvin and Ray
I'm
could,
willing to be committed to it, it's just,
where we can find the funds.
can you go, if we agree to do this, and we'll figure out where to get the money before next meeting, but can you make sure that the landowners, before we actually say we're gonna do the project, if we don't drain that water off out there, we're just wasting the time, because that's what's wrong now.
We can take care of that,
I think they'd be more than happy to,
I would think.
but we've been wrong before,
We've
Peter.
been wrong before. We've been wrong before. You better believe it.
Benji, 900 East, did you get any tree sap on that road? People-
I called them again, not yet that I know of. We were down in that area and we didn't check, we should have drove by there. I'll check on that tomorrow. I told them.
This weekend is their.
I reminded them last week that 25th was their graduation. So hopefully it's done by now.
You wanna check on that?
Yep.
If you gotta check on it every day.
Yeah, I will. I will. Did we talk we did talk about the road hog last time, and we decided to go with the used one if it was indeed had 54 hours in it. I checked and it did.
And that's 63 now that we've used it, I believe. is what-
63 now, right, since we've used it. In the meantime, I feel like I really need to tell you this. We got another offer from Asphalt Zipper, their competitor, for a used machine. It's only a 36-inch. It's got more horsepower, 173 versus 140. They both cut 12 inches deep. It's a little lighter machine, and it's a little newer machine. And the offer is $71,950 versus the 75 for the road hog. I feel like I need to tell you that. I don't know, you guys may have gotten the same email.
Did. Does it have teal?
You know, I don't know.
Does it have side shear?
I don't know.
Did the one that we demonstrated have either one?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't either. How many hours did that have?
Doesn't say. I can see. I don't see the center there.
Well, and the thing is, the one that we used was not a used machine, it was a demonstrator. I mean, it wasn't.
Demonstrator, right. Correct.
Well, I didn't get to see the asphalt zipper work, but
It's a good machine, there's no question about it.
I felt better about the one that we used just because of the way it was made.
It's made locally, made in Indiana. It's a plus. Got a local distributor.
Ain't supposed to renege anyhow, so.
Well, I'm good where we're at.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right there.
One double check. Let's see here.
And you know, we've still got to go before the council. We don't even know that we'll be able to do what we.
Right. I brought up last time that Boyd Construction wanted to do a road bore for Mellon Acres. I have hold harmless agreements for Mellon Acres and also for Boyd Construction for Ray to sign. And at this time, after execution, they would like their board approved. That's Mellon Acres there, I believe. No, that's Boyd Construction there.
Mellon Acres.
And here's the,
We don't need a motion to sign this whole harmless, do we? I mean, it's something that we enacted, so.
right. There's the one for Boyd. There's the approval for the board.
I need a motion to approve this agreement for Mellon Acres by Boyd Construction.
Move it, we allow the horse to roll.
Second.
All in favor?
two. Mellon Acres had two of them, they want one returned to them. Okay, that's all I got.
On Benji's note, Craig, do you have any enlightenment into whether we're gonna get any additional funding next year?
For roads,
Yes.
I do not have a formula, but the answer is yes, you will, from two sources. One, in the gas tax road fund money, they have taken the state police and some other entities out of that, so it is all gonna be designated to road funding. So that's a guarantee that you can count on. We also earmarked some of the sales tax on gasoline, a small percentage to go into that as well. I'd love to give you an amount, but the only thing they did was lay out more or less what the pot of money and where it was going. But they did not come up with a formula. I assume it will be very similar to what is the current formula. So I can't give you a specific dollar amount, but I can tell you that there is going to be more dollars coming in.
I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being here tonight.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'll try to make it a better habit.
Anything else you need to enlighten us on before we?
I think things are pretty straightforward. I appreciate you having me here, and I think more than anything, just to let you know that I'm not nosing in your business. You have a job to do, but we are a partnership, and it is our job to work together. And I think that's part of the reason, at your invitation, just to let you know that I do want to work with you. I do want to partner with you. We're on the same side. And as you see things coming up, please let me know, and I'll try to make sure I do the same.
Okay, thank you. Brenda?
Okay. I have a bond that needs to be signed for Jim Hurdle for the purchase of management.
Have a motion on this bond? You've got more than one bond?
No,
Approve Jane Pearl's bond.
that's signed. All measures. I didn't see a place for you to sign, but they requested it be signed for SRI, for the Commissioner Certificate sale. It's gonna be online for May 20th. It started today. Is it Friday? Friday, 24th, till Friday. And this is where Tina Wright is requesting an extended medical leave, family medical leave. So that needs to be signed. Thank you.
But Ray, will your insurance be paid on an extended? I don't think it will.
John?
It extended, what has it been, 12 weeks?
That's what our policy is.
And she's extending it beyond the 12 weeks? She would have to pay.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yes.
this isn't even in effect. And the reason you do this is for the insurance.
She'd have to pay for 12 weeks.
She didn't, does she need our approval?
Yeah, yeah. Well, without her approval, I mean, we can lay her off or terminate her from not coming back at the end of 12 weeks. So by approving it, we'll basically say,
She can buy
saving
insurance.
her job, but she has to buy her own insurance.
So you're kosher with that?
I guess we could just stipulate that in the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
I move we authorize SRA to continue the commissioner sale.
I second
Is there a explanation? Yeah, we're about to have. Remind me. While Marvin and Luke are signing this, I've got a letter of recognition from Debbie Keaton. She said she would like to thank Sullivan County for letting her serve on the cemetery board. As of 5/14/13, I resigned, Debbie Keaton. We don't actually make that hospital board appointment until July, is that correct?
They,
Is that right?
That's right, but she said they called again and they wanted it
They
done
wanted it
tonight,
done.
so I didn't understand why. I mean,
I don't know why
They did that last year, if you remember.
and I don't know if they have something coming up that they have to have the board already,
they.
established. But most of the time you did it in June and they took office then in July. You did it in your June, but she said they called again and asked.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's something they need to have done for their records or something, right? Something that they, their fiscal year ends in June and that's when they make their appointments. Always have.
I'd like to put Bill Springer on the hospital board. And Alice Dodd's seat, it's Republican seat for the hospital board.
I know that in the past, if there was any question that we didn't want to use the one who was there, that they would give us 3 names to choose from.
Right, when she called in, she said you can just extend the person that's already there, well, she's, unless they just resign or something, you fill that position again or something, the lady from the hospital, she called.
But she also hasn't been attending the meeting.
But you can you extend it if somebody else is wanting to be in the seat too?
I don't understand you, Brenda, or I didn't hear you.
Can you go ahead and extend Alice Dodds if somebody else has a letter that they want to be on the board?
Well, I think the hospital sent us a letter recommending Alice, was what I was getting at. I don't know if we have Alice's letter or not, but the hospital board was who recommended
Alice
it.
Dodds, yeah.
Well, did you talk to Alice, Luke? Is she wanting off?
No, but I mean, just they usually send a letter whenever they're interested in being on the board.
Who called you from the hospital board asking that you make it tonight? You called and told me to put them on the agenda for tonight.
Lynette did last year. She called last year at the same time, did the same thing, if you remember.
Yeah, it was like that.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor. I hear no second, I'll make a motion myself to table this matter until the next meeting, Luke, and then we can make sure that Alice does or doesn't. And you can notify the hospital as to why we
Get a
didn't
letter to
fill that.
us.
And tell them that Bill Springer did put his letter in, so.
Okay.
I think we should
conscientious. And he wouldn't be at the meetings.
They called. And I told her, we just didn't call. And we may try. but I had you out. We know what it costs. It's really- Fix it.
He was going to look at it.
He was, yeah, we were going to take pictures.
Yeah, because he was in one direction.
But since he's done that, I haven't heard.
No. But he didn't call me.
Is that all you had, Brandon?
Yes.
I've got
Hartford,
one.
Luke,
wasn't
did
it?
you have anything
Was it
to
Hartford?
Just what Benji already talked about.
Did you have anything to make? Okay. Go to the bids on the ADA. Have any bids, Brenda, for the ADA?
Yeah, one there.
This is it?
That's all we need to see.
Well, I think, is there anybody here that wants to discuss this?
That would be me. If you guys know me, Kevin Meyer with RQAW. And so we brought these bids up, and I brought with me one of our lead architects. He's experienced in the ADA compliance and stuff like that, so really I thought I'd let him do the talking because he's the pro. So Brett, if you don't care.
This is the first time you've seen these? It's now done. Okay. We structured this two different ways. Option one is if we do the whole thing, and option two is if we assist you guys with someone from the county being the point person on completing the self-evaluation transition plan. So basically under option two, what we do is two-day training sessions, about 4 hours apiece. First, we get about a week apart. What we found out is that once people walk away from the first training session, they start thinking about everything, they have tons of questions. So the first time is we just kind of go through the big picture stuff. Here's all the standards, here's how you approach this. We'll get a self-evaluation form for you. There's a lot of them online. We've found one that we think is really user-friendly. There's a couple changes we need to make to it because it's got some errors in it, but they can use a self-evaluation form. It's in a Word format. So we do the first training for about 4 hours. It depends on who you get involved. And then we come back a week later, and during that week what we'll do is photograph specific conditions throughout all your county buildings, and we'll walk through a whole process on this is what you look at. We'll show a slide of like the toilet room here in the courthouse, for instance, or maybe some other building. We'll say, okay, let's talk about what's non-compliant in this, and this is how you approach this, is how you write it up, this is how you do your transition plan, that kind of thing. So option two is quite a bit less money, but you guys, depending on your availability, your resources, you may want to go that direction. And then option one, as I said, is we would do the whole assessment and the transition plan for you. Any questions about ADA?
Something I'll bring up too, we came in today early and I took him all through the lake. We went through the highway garage, the fairgrounds. There's a lot of stuff at that lake. I mean, a lot. I never dreamed there was that much till we spent the day together and it was a lot of work.
There's a strategy, guys, that we need to apply to a couple of your fairgrounds in the lake area. And it comes down to, you have to remember, this is not a code, it's a civil rights law. So interpretations come through the courts, they don't come, so you have people that are assigned to interpret it and help you with it. The accessible route to me is kind of curious, because accessible route has a point of origin. And also there's, even though ADA, when it first came out in 2000, it was fairly generic, there was no specific kind of things out there. When it came out in 2010, they were more specific. This is how you evaluate playgrounds, this is how you evaluate boat ramps, this is how you evaluate, but they never did anything with campgrounds. So I think what we'd have to do is treat campgrounds the same way that you would treat transient housing like hotels. And that you would have the same number, for instance, in hotels, I think for up to 25 rooms, you need one fully ADA accessible area. So what we do is get the number of campsites, and we also have to have difference of experience, tent camping versus RV camping. So use the number of campsites, we determine how many should be ADA accessible, and that's simple enough to do. But also your toilet rooms will need to be accessible, not all of them, but one. So you potentially could group them, dedicating a certain number of spots to be left open, the rest can be used by general camping. So you only improve one, but each one of the experiences within the lake, like the boat ramp, even the fish cleaning station, the piers, the slips, any park shelters you have. You know, for instance, I saw one that said it was handicap accessible, had the bench, had a concrete sidewalk. The slope needs to change a little bit. It comes to a gravel area. Well, there's no accessible route to that park shelter from a point of origin. So I think there's a strategy. Same thing's true with your fairgrounds, but which is kind of curious to me. You had accessible spaces in front of some buildings, and then like the Extension Homemakers building, you had accessible parking spaces there, handicap signs, but it was a gravel parking lot, so it wasn't accessible. And then the new Purdue Extension building didn't have accessible spaces in front of it and had a concrete pad. So it's kind of curious, but it also suggests that a route, a circulation route or a route, accessible route between the buildings needs to be established in some manner. So the accessible route in both of those areas, I think could be a pretty good strategy. Now, it's certainly something we can talk through with whoever, you know, if you want to use this or if you have some resources. And again, it doesn't have to be only your staff. You might, is that okay?
Yes, that's
okay. You might think about, you know, is there anybody retired that was in the construction profession that might be of interest to help out the county? Is there somebody in the Veterans Association or a disabled group that might be interested in helping out the county? You know, we're willing to work with whoever you guys or whatever approach you want to do with it. It's not rocket science, it's a little tedious, and it just takes, you know, sometimes it takes somebody you can talk to and kind of work through the ideas, because I haven't heard of any ruling by any courts that went against someone who showed diligence in trying to comply with the code. And it is a little vague, or comply with the civil rights law. It is a little vague, and it is only clearly defined by the courts. So you have to do some interpretation, but a good faith interpretation has never, you know, been ruled against the person that made the effort to try to do that. So a lot of these buildings, we listed the buildings you have in the county. I think some of them can be taken off the list. I'm assuming probably about half of them. Remember, we only have to do public spaces. For instance, your highway garage. Is there a public space in the highway garage? Do people come out there?
Just the office.
But do people, general public, come to the office? Okay, then just that, meaning we need an accessible parking area, a route to the front door, a means in the front door, and then that's probably from the lobby on, that's all staff, right? So that would be the end of that. We wouldn't have to go much further. So there's a set of 4 priorities that they have. The first priority is you get them to the building and in the building. So in this case, that's parking, the sidewalk, and in the front door. The second priority is you get them to the service areas. You know, like each one of these rooms, you make sure they get in. Third priority is toilet rooms, and the fourth priority are things like other accessible amenities like drinking fountains and stuff like that. So a lot of your implementation plan will follow that guideline. And I've seen folks that have said, okay, we're going to dedicate $25,000 a year to to mitigating our barriers, and we're gonna follow this priority list, and we'll chip away at it till we get it done. You don't have to be that aggressive with it, and I think basically it's NDOT that's kind of pulling the trigger on this. Only about 23% of the entities are in compliance right now, and it's been in place since 2000, and they're just like, you know, we've got to have some tool to get this stuff done. I don't know how much they're gonna follow through on the threads, it's yet to be seen, but yeah, you have to remember it is a civil rights law. We've worked in counties that are doing it just because they're tired of the lawsuits. You know, I don't think Sullivan County is litigious, so you need to monitor your, you know, your overall, you know, general disposition down here. But so we gave you two approaches, you know, knowing that you know, there's way more than one ways to skin a cat, and if you guys have other ideas, we'll be glad to explore with you as well.
I'm sure glad I brought him, because I couldn't have said all that.
You know, your playground, the playground out at the lake, that's one of the most regulated by this civil rights law, tediously regulated aspects or components that you have. It's that playground. That'll take some time to get through that, to figure out how to get, because what you're supposed to do is define it by age group. You're supposed to have access by age group to each one of the features. And then if you have elevated features, you have to have a certain amount of those accessible. It's a little tedious. But again, that's something that we can work through with, you know, if you want to do it on your own, we'll certainly be glad to work with you to try to come up with some reasonable way to approach it.
Once again, go through what you're gonna provide for us on option 2.
Option 2, what we do is we do 2 days of training a week apart, 4-hour sessions. What we'll do is we'll give you a this is an example of an online form that's really pretty good. It comes in a Word document. You can download it. There's one or a couple errors in there. One of them is that a threshold can only be a 1/4 inch high, and if it's a 1/2 inch high, it has to be beveled. That notes it's a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. So there's a couple things in there what we need to edit for you to get it right, but it's a pretty friendly checklist. So what we do is in the first day, first 4-hour sessions, we kind of go through the big picture ADA, and then we get into the details. We give everybody enough, you know, you could have 3 or 4 people working on this, one person, however you want to approach it, and we'll adjust how we present this accordingly. And then we make sure that they kind of get a grasp of everything, how you would approach it, what we're trying to accomplish, what a transition plan is, what a self-evaluation plan is, how you approach it, those kind of things. So we give the folks about a week or so to digest all of that. And then during that week, we'll photograph situations, scenarios. We'll get an aerial photo, for instance, of the lake. And we'll start thinking through how would you approach accessible route, how we might evaluate these things. So the second session, we come back, we do another 4-hour session. We can start at 8 till noon or whatever you guys want to do. And we'll put up specific examples, give everyone a chance to ask questions about, well, if I encounter this, how do I handle it? For instance, in the toilet room right here, you're supposed to have an 18-inch push side or pull side on the door. You got less than 18 inches. But you have the physical constraints of the historic courthouse, which gives you some flexibility. It's one of the few things that gives you flexibility. It's the historic courthouse like this. So we'll talk through, okay, how would you handle that? How would you assess it? Doorknobs are basically something you can't have anywhere anymore. And again, ADA is not just for wheelchairs. It's also for elderly people that don't have the grip strength that people had when they were younger and things like that. So we'll talk through the strategy. They'll be able to ask questions, you know, what if I encounter this, what would you suggest we do? We'll go through specific examples, photographs, images that we'll have of each one of these major components of assessment. Talk through it. And then that includes 40 hours of you ask me whatever and we'll answer, we'll help you strategize, we'll do any kind of research you want to. And then we evaluate the self-evaluation form that's developed to give you any comments, feedbacks, thoughts, make sure it's fairly consistent with the 504 and everything else you're trying to accomplish. And then we'll help you give you direction on how to do your implementation plan, the estimating, cost estimating, put together your priorities, and then we'll evaluate that plan as well. So that's option 2. We're more or less assisting you in providing our experience with ADAs.
And in option 1, you basically do the same thing, only no training and you do all the labor.
We just do all the work.
Right.
We come back to you, you know, at points, increments of completion, like self-evaluation, and say, this is everything we saw, this is all inclusive of what we understand to be what you need to do for compliance, and then we come back to you with a transition plan saying, here's your priorities, your 4 top priorities, this is how everything fits in, and then we work with you to determine how you might accomplish it. You know, is it a 10-year thing, is it 5-year, is it a 25-year plan? And certainly, I think you not only prioritize it by the 4 priorities, but you also prioritize it by primary access point, like public. For instance, you probably have more people coming here than you do the highway garage. So you may put the high grade, you may prioritize your amenities and then implement it by those 4 priorities, then come to your 2nd tier of buildings, your 3rd tier, and your 4th tier, and so forth. So there's a lot of different strategies for it. I think what they're mainly looking for is an effort to try to mitigate, you know, barriers within your community. I don't think you guys own a lot of right-of-way with sidewalks. You know, like the sidewalks around here are all the city-owned and that kind of stuff. So that's good for counties usually. You don't have a lot of right-of-way where you have infrastructure like sidewalks and curb ramps and things like that. So when you get into cities and towns, that becomes very tedious.
Do you have any questions? Any thoughts?
Yeah, how defensible do you think a self-assessment is, John?
I have no idea. I do think things are better
Having a
from
third,
an evidentiary standpoint and having an independent third party.
I agree.
And relying on their expertise.
And you somebody to point the finger at.
Yeah. We want someone to turn around and bring into the lawsuit.
I've been a fall guy before.
Martin, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
I don't think we have money appropriated for this at this point, but what's the next step? Send them to the council and let them deal with it, or? I think it's something we need to start working on though.
Can you tell me how much money is available for some of these ADA projects? Is there money available?
None that I know of. You know, a lot of grants and things like that I've tried out a long time ago. The only thing I can think of, guys, is if you have any institution that's interested in, maybe a Veterans Administration or something like that that has disabled vets that, you know, they might want to contribute something to. But honestly, I don't know of any financial resources outside of your own that's available for these kind of projects. It might be considered another unmandated federal kind of thing, or unfunded mandated federal project. You've run into those, right?
How far does it take us to have this plan in place?
How far does it take you, what do you mean?
I mean, does it look like we're doing our due diligence to try to do good? I mean, or does it look like we've got a plan and now we're not doing anything with it? Because if we've got to figure out where we're going to get the money to do the plan, you know we don't have enough money to do the projects.
Well, like I said, I've seen communities dedicate a certain certain amount of funding every year to chip away at it. You know, it could be $10,000, could be $25,000 on an annual basis. I think, I don't know how much you guys know, but basically NDOT said that we're going to dry up your federal funding for roads and bridges if you guys don't start bringing this stuff into compliance. Is that what got you interested in? Okay. Well, I think what they're looking for is your transition plan, and they're looking for an understanding of how you're going to mitigate barriers in the community. And like I said, it could be, you know, I've heard of cities dedicating, and remember, larger municipalities dedicating $100,000 a year for the next 25 years to mitigate their barriers. So I don't think anybody's looking for you to do it tomorrow. I think they're looking for you to start taking steps to getting in compliance. You know, that 504 that is actually done in 1973 by federal transportation to mitigate barriers within public right-of-ways. So there's been, that preceded the ADA by almost 30 years. So there's been an interest in trying to help out folks with disabilities. You have to remember that it could be, you know, one of you guys that broke your leg and you're temporarily disabled for a certain period of time. And as we get older, our hearing's not as good. It works for that. Our eyes aren't as good. The lighting levels do that. Alarms, notifications. So it's a whole cross-section of our elderly and temporarily disabled population.
Is the airport listed on here, because I'm not seeing it?
I didn't see the airport in your list. But like I said, I think that some of these buildings have come off. You know, like you have storage buildings that probably aren't public accessible. So if we need to add the airport back in, you know, we're not going to ask for more money for something like that.
Well, they do still receive federal money every year, and we don't want to jeopardize that. That's,
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
John, how do you suggest we move on before I slow?
Well, we would need to come up with some money, obviously. I don't know if I was going to request an additional appropriation from the county council for this.
Luke, you're the officer, what's your suggestion?
I think we need the full meal deal. Let them worry about it, and then we can address the problems as we address, you know, just naturally address them. It just gives us order operations to work from.
What do you think, Benji?
I think once you get a plan in place, then NDOT's gonna see that you're working towards your goals. Whether you put very little money in for construction from each year from there on,
Well, we got
at
one.
least you're going towards where you wanna get to.
We got one point.
Once you have the plan in place.
Don't we have a 1.6 million federal aid bridge we're working on? So we got $1.6 million. That's
Well, if we don't go with option one, then it's gonna fall back largely on you to oversee whoever compiles the list.
I'd love for you to go for option one. I make the motion.
Let's ask for additional appropriation of $50,000 to cover our ADA plan, see what they say. I make a motion, we request additional appropriation, $50,000 from the council. Take a look at your proposal. I second that.
You wanna make it as, accepting this option one as for funding available?
Well, not necessarily, because they may only say, well, we got $25,000, and we gotta work with, I just want to see what they have to say, and we'll move forward. I prefer option one, but
Okay. Got a motion, a second, and we're all in favor of forwarding it on to
Now,
Thank you.
Brenda, are you going to send a letter to the council?
anyone in the audience with old business as you
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Any new business? Yep.
On June 5th, the Disabled American Veterans has a mobile service van that has a state service officer that's accredited. Would like to park on the north side of the courthouse out here in parking lots, and I'd like to get permission for them to allow them to do that from 9 a.m. to 4.
And that's just to serve the.
It's just to serve veterans with VA claims. They have this van that's been funded through the Harley-Davidson Foundation that travels around the state of Indiana. And what DAV is like the big four veterans groups in Indiana, the AMVETS, the American Legion, and Veterans of Foreign Wars. They all have service officers within the federal building in Indianapolis that helps veterans with their claims free of charge. They don't have been a member of any of these organizations. Matter of fact, when a veteran comes through my office, I help them with their claim, and I don't try to talk them into it, but I suggest that they should use one of these veterans organizations as their power of attorney, which means power of attorney for their claim only. What that means, if the VA turns down their claim, it's just not turned down. It can go into the appeal process, and if they have a hearing, these trained service officers will be with them. They're in Indianapolis to be as their representative for their claims. And DAV is one of the only ones that has a mobile service office, and they would like to come to Sullivan on June 5th. I won't be here because I have my annual county service officer training that week, but they said they didn't need me here. But my secretary will be here to help them out if they need any assistance.
I think we'd be in full support of that. I think I'd want to make a motion to allow that.
I say we allow them to use parking lot.
And we're all in favor.
Thank you.
Jimmy.
And on another couple notes, I'm going to be sending out letters to our veteran service organization asking for donation. That time of year where I'm going to have to put a new van on my budget for next year. Previous years, I go to my budget meeting in August, and the council is very nice to me and lets me go buy one right away, but I'm not sure how the money situation is this year, but I am going to put it on my budget, and I'm going to ask the veteran service organizations in the county to see if they will donate towards it. Previously, the Sullivan American Legion, the Sullivan County VFW, and the Elks Lodge has donated quite nicely. So that letter will be going out in the next week or two. And one of the biggest changes for service officers this year's legislative period was HR 1387, which calls for county service officers to be accredited. Supposedly the state is going to give us money for me to get new computer soft hardware and to send me through training, but if not, it's going to be mandated that this training for me will have to be completed by July 1st of 2015. I'll find more about it at my annual conference, so something down the road to look at. Basically, they're going to try and get all 92 counties service officers full-time. They even talked about state providing part of the funding for the service officers, so they're all on an even keel. The salary out there goes way all over the place, and they're trying to get the state. We're one of Kent or Representative Battles, Craig. I knew that, but we're one of what 19 states that's not accredited. Do you remember?
I think that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and so they want to get us. Governor Pence in his campaign, this was a big push on his part, and it's going to happen in a 4-phase period. But the first phase is the service officers accreditation training and the computer software called BIMS. So I'm supposed to be able to go on the VA site and see what veterans claim where it's at, but it's not going to be right away. I know the system, but just give you some info on the Veterans Office. Thank you.
Hopefully they'll send the money to do the deed then.
Yeah.
Anyone else with new business? Brian, no new business?
Nope.
How about the FOP? Have they progressed with?
I've
the-
turned that over to the officers of the FOP. You know, they've met with the state. Once they get a decision with what the state wants. I know Luke probably dealt with him. There's some connections with federal money that's kind of being a little bit of a hiccup. But the FOP is trying to figure out a way to come up with some funds to make everybody happy.
If you need any help, holler at us and we'll try to
Okay.
help with it. I have one other thing. Last Friday, there was a lady called me from the state, and she was concerned about our not turning anything for FEMA, and I got a hold of Jim Pirtle, and he did have everything filled out, and then we declared state of emergency. What did we declare, Jim?
24th through the 30th of April.
And we did get some figures turned in for, to where we met our threshold, and are they supposed to be here this weekend?
Tomorrow.
So we did have to fill that out, and Luke, I tried to call you, but I didn't get any answer, and so Marvin and I signed it, and Jimmy, I think he came and called you, didn't he, Brenda? So we did get that taken care of, so that if there is any money available, and hopefully they can help us through that levy. Hospital board or Carol Hammond?
She wanted to postpone her tickets till June 17th.
Okay. All right. Anyone else with any further business?
Last thing on this concrete stretch, you want me to go ahead and, how about this? I'll pay for it, and if you guys want to kick something in, I'll just live with whatever you guys can work with, because I want to get moving on it. I mean,
We'll find something else. We'll find a way.
I just really, I mean, I hate to do it and not have the drainage taken care of before we do it.
We'll work on that.
That's-
We won't allow, that first 250 feet.
No, I
That
see.
first 250 feet is not a big drainage issue anyway.
But there's no place for the water to go like it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just down the road is a nice holler that we can get the water off the end, but it can't get there the way it is.
Right.
And I think 4C would be picking the debt to help us a lot.
Yep.
So are we going to give a motion or something on
Yeah,
this to accept?
I move that we get going with it, and if you guys can come up with money to help out on it, we'll take it.
With the 8-inch, Luke,
Yeah,
and the
with the-
52?
yeah.
I'll contact him tomorrow and I'll make sure we get busy on the drainage. Make sure we can drain it. I know we can drain it.
Yeah. But if the neighbors are.
I'll make sure we talk to him. I'll talk to him myself.
Nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to close.